What's poppin'? What's poppin'? What's poppin'? Brand new whip just hopped in. We in this thing, Juke Boy Sports Show. Thanks for watching. Kai, your mic is muted, but I'm your host, King Ralph. The homie Kai is my co-host. What's poppin', bro?
Yo, what is good? Is my mic still muting? I should be coming through. There we go. All right, yo, what's good, everyone? What's good? I'm happy, man. NBA playoffs, we're in the thick of things, man. People trying to say that the bubble was real now. Whoa! But everything's good, and Ralph is glad to be back.
Same, bro. And before we get this show rolling, we're gonna do a little shout out to the sponsor. If you want to book a podcast, photo shoot, music video, call the number on the bottom of the screen, 707 Fitboxer. And we're gonna jump straight into it, man. We got the second round of the NBA playoffs. We're getting close to the end here. It's looking a little murky. It's murky waters for some people, but at the same time, it's just getting good. So we got the Nuggets and Suns. Nuggets win Game 5 back in Denver, go up 3-2. But Devin Booker was on a hot streak.
Yeah.
Is he having an all-time scoring run in these playoffs?
Absolutely. And I wanna say this also, that he's not just having an all-time scoring run, he's also playing well with a level of defensive prowess on the defensive end, right? We talked about this, I think, last postseason about, okay, it's one thing to be able to score the basketball, but also you want to be able to play defense. And I actually noticed it in the first round, Ralph, that he was playing defense. He's taking on a challenge to play defense. And he's also being now the primary playmaker on the team with Chris Paul out. I believe it was a groin injury, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
So now he has to take over the primary playmaking duties, even though he was playmaking before. So now he's giving you affecting the game in all three phases. And it's not like he's just scoring just for the sake of scoring. He's doing it in a fashion where the team needs his scoring, right? They are going back home after 2 days of rest, down 2-0 to the number one seed with a former two-time MVP, Nikola Jokic, and Booker delivered. Just to list off some of his numbers, it's more of all-time efficiency, Ralph, that we're looking at. It's averaging 36.8 points per game over the 9 games prior to – this is all prior to the last game, which they lost, which is good enough for 331 points, the most by any player this postseason. And he's doing that on 61.7% field goal percentage, 71.1 true shooting percentage. And he went to the line, I think it was shot 6 free throws during that 9-game stretch from the first round to up until this game. So me and you were people who we don't like to look at just a stat sheet, because the game of basketball, I'll continue to say till I'm blue in the face, was not meant to be played on Excel spreadsheets, but it's the way he's getting his shots, facing double teams, sometimes triple teams, but mainly double teams, right? And still being able to score the basketball. So I'm not going to lament on it too much, but I just wanted to give him his props. Shout out to Devin Booker. And he's doing it in an all-time efficient manner and an era that seems to value efficiency over all things. So shout out to Devin Booker.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, man. Like, I think that what he's been able to do in these playoffs here, I think KD is paying dividends for him.
Yes.
Because you can't, even with a Chris Paul going out, you can't just shade the defense to his side of the floor. You gotta respect KD, because it doesn't matter who's over there. He's just so tall. He shoots above his head. He's so long, pause if needed, that he'll be able to, every shot is a good shot. And so, with like, KD is a perfect example of good defense, better offense. Mm-hmm. And so I think when you have someone like a Devin Booker who can create off of that catch, the catch and shoot, the catch and react, the ability to come off a screen, grab a rebound, run the floor, run the offense. I think a couple years ago when they had him playing the point, he looked out of place, but now I think those steps in his game has got him to a point where I do disagree with the fact of the people calling him the best two guard in the league. I still think Bradley Beal holds that
Okay.
spot, in my personal opinion. Although I do think Zach LaVine, Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal are in the same tier.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really close race on that, but I don't have a problem with this run that he's having or people coming out and making that statement. I don't think it's a bold claim.
Okay.
And then next up, we got Game 5 is later tonight,
Yeah.
but it was a crazy Game 4. Who you giving that game ball to?
You know what? I'm gonna give it to Lonnie Walker. And I want to first give AD his props for showing his versatility, his ability to defend 1 through 5 and be able to stop a two-time MVP, right, in a critical moment, um, and cause Steph Curry to be able to miss that step back 3-point shot. And people are like, why didn't he drive? Well, because he feared AD going to the basket. With all due respect, if you, I don't even like to use the word fear with Steph, but you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
So
it's a
let's go
respect
with
level.
Lonnie.
It's
Right,
more of a
yeah.
respect level than a
Respect
fear.
level, not a fear, right? Exactly. Thank you. But I'm gonna go with Lonnie Walker, and here's why, guys. I'm gonna go with Lonnie Walker, is because Lonnie Walker was the perfect example, guys, of stay ready so you don't have to get ready, right? Darvin Ham only took another rotation because remember he wound up getting injured, right? And then you have guys like an Austin Reeves, you have guys like a Dennis Schroeder and whoever, what have you. Lonnie Walker, every time he's been able to get into the basketball game, he's been able to give them some form of scoring ability. He came in with confidence. He gave the Warriors another look that they were not expecting. And he was able to go out there, and I believe he poured in about around like 13 to 15 points, and he wound up tying um, the late great Kobe Bryant for doing a record right there, and he gave them a surge of offense and just being able to stay ready. Um, Lonnie Walker is my game ball guy, so I just want to give him all the praise and adulation because we don't always look at some of these role players or guys that are in and out of the rotation and vice versa. For him to not have played that long, Ralph, and for him to be able to get off the bench and produce not just in the regular season.
Sorry, bro. I don't know what happened, but it
Nope,
was a breakup. But we doing good.
you're good.
But I agree with you, bro. I think that Lonnie Walker in that situation, and Draymond said it best, man. Like, although he had a great fourth quarter,
Mhm.
you kind of, as a defense, when you're able to halt LeBron when LeBron wasn't really effective in the fourth. Outside of defense, on the offensive side, Anthony Davis wasn't really effective in the fourth. And so I think when you get to a certain point, nine times out of 10, you're just gonna live with Lonnie Walker taking those shots. Now, big ups to and big props to him to be able to make those shots when they really counted. And I think that that's the part that like the playoffs is really what matters. And I think that this series is gonna boil down to the others, like Shaq would say. And Jordan Poole, non-existent. Andrew Wiggins was aggressive but didn't shoot well. Klay Thompson, aggressive but didn't shoot well. So
Mhm.
it's like Steph is doing all that he can, and when you look up Steph's numbers, he's balling out, bro. So it's like, at what point would you really? It's you can't blame Steph if they lose this series. It's gonna fall down to Wiggins. Jordan Poole is I don't know what happened to him after getting his bread. He just was like, yeah, no, I'm straight. Y'all got it. Um, let me go try to kick it with Ice Spice. And so I'm like,
Mhm.
it's a crazy situation, and it's very telling when you watch Draymond's podcast and he starts mentioning off players,
Right, right.
and Jordan Poole doesn't get a mention at all.
Mhm.
And so next up, they're playing currently
Okay.
Knicks and Heat,
Yeah.
but it leads me to ask, man, I gotta ask it: is Julius Randle the Kirk Cousins of the NBA.
I'm going to say he's the Julius Randle of the NBA, whatever that may be. But when you pay someone, Julius Randle to be a star, right? Because remember, they paid him to be a star player. You want stars to show up on a consistent basis in the playoffs, right? I look at Julius Randle. He's a guy who could rebound. I'm a guy who, we talked about working on that left hand, getting that jumper. Shout out to Matt. He's like, man, if you just got that left hand, you know. And we look at his what looked, I don't even like to say woes because it was his first time last year, if I'm not mistaken, in the playoffs, right? And so we're like, we want to see growth, Randall. We don't want to just see you out here. You're averaging under 20 points per game. Let's boost that up, boost up your 3-point efficiency. I think he's taking about 6 shots. And there's times when it's like I feel like I don't feel his presence in the basketball game, right? Bam Adebayo, he's like, no, let me, control the boards. Let me dictate how this is going to go, right? So I think that Julius Randle, he needs to mark his territory and he needs to provide them with additional lift with a guy like a Jalen Brunson, right? Because we thought going into the season, okay, they said he wanted a compliment to Julius Randle, right? So now you're kind of playing in the foreshadow. You're kind of playing in the background. He had about, I would say, about one solid game, one decent game, and then the last game, and then the game. I think game two. Game two, I think he scored 10 points. I was like, come on, Randall. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So now you're going back, and Miami, they're not afraid. They're not afraid. Jimmy Butler is doing his thing. So I'm not gonna lie. I am disappointed in Julius Randle's output. But I've also am someone with all due respect. I don't actually think he's a number 1 or number 2 option. I think he's a number 3 option, and he's kind of in that. He's kind of, dare I say, in that DeAndre Ayton mold at times. Kind of functioning. Where do you want to put DeAndre Ayton? As a 3, 4, 3? But he's paid. He's paid too much money for what he's giving you. But yeah, I never believed that Julius Randle was a 1 or 2 option, and this is someone who was a fan of his on the Lakers. So we'll see. They called him Baby Zebo at one point, like a more athletic Zebo or something like that. But what do you think, man? Because I know that's your
I
question.
do think he is, man. I'm gonna go back to the question and I'm gonna pull it back up.
You really like that Kirk Cousins comparison?
I do, bro, because if you go and you look at
Mhm.
his numbers, then you look at what he averaged during the
And how
season, and it's like his output is just not during the season is just not matching his output for the playoffs. And so as I wait for it to load up, I think he averaged around 25. He averaged 25 and 10 with 4 assists.
Mm.
And then in these playoffs, it's like 16, 8, and like 4. He still averaged the same amount of assists, but Shaq says this a lot. When you're the star of the team, we go into it thinking, all right, you got to raise your point total, your rebounds, your assists. Something has to go up.
Mm-hmm.
Defenses are going to play to you, so maybe your assists go up, but your points go down. Your rebound, you got to be a little bit more aggressive, so your rebounds are going to go up. Something has to go up, but if things are going down, I have to start comparing you to Kirk Cousins at some point, because if your output is at such a high level during the regular season, but then something happens where you're just not there in the playoffs, it could be a situation, and we're going to talk about this later with James Harden, where he shouldn't be the focal point. And I think that there's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. By no means am I going to get on here and say brothers shouldn't get their bread. But at the same time, I do think that there's a conversation that has to be had that he's just not living up to what they thought he was. We went into it, and you kind of alluded to it, but didn't say exactly the point. But we went into it thinking Jalen Brunson was here to help Julius Randle. Now we're looking for help for Jalen Brunson. Yeah. And so at the end of the season, if they lose this series, being a number 4 seed, losing to the Heat, there's going to be another conversation that has to be had. One, is Tibbs the answer, or is is Julius Randle being overpaid?
That's a great question. That's a great question.
And next up, 76ers. I believe they go up 3-2.
3-2. Yeah. They're tied with the same as the Nuggets and Suns. 3-2.
3-2. Sixers are up.
Mm-hmm. The last
You
two
got to
games.
ask it, and I brought it up. Is James Harden putting his playoff demons to rest?
Okay, so I like this question. I'm gonna say this. I think he's slowly breaking down the narrative. I think for a lot of people, what it's going to come down to is James Harden has a lot of haters. Let's just be real. He has a lot of haters. He has people who hold him accountable, but he also has people that just hate. Let's be real, Ralph. He's somebody who is a top offensive force, basketball force in terms of at his position that he's played at. Um, and just to answer the question directly, I believe that he's slowly chipping away at the narrative, and he can put it to rest by making an NBA Finals appearance. Well, you're like, oh, well, we got to make the finals. Well, yes, because for much is given, much is required, and you have the league MVP and Joel Embiid on your roster, and they've yet to be past the second round, right? In that era. So I just wanted to talk about James Harden's performance right now in the playoffs. He's at 240 plus point per games. One was a game one road win in I believe it was in Boston. He's averaging 26 points per game, 8 assists points per game, 8 assists per game, 7 rebounds, went 47% from the field and 42% from three. Now, if you look at the narrative that you're talking about or that we're bringing up together, he's 9-13 in elimination games, right? One including a game seven where the Rockets missed 27 threes in 2018.
Yes.
However, I think some of the things are kind of misguided. I don't think James Harden is a playoff choker. Gas. I think James Harden has underperformed in certain instances because when we think about it, that was a horrific performance in when they missed 27 threes in 2018. But that was a Warriors team with KD who played in that series, right?
Right.
And you were the defending champions. I think nine of his 11 playoff losses or whatever came against teams that were either the eventual champions or four of them were 3 or 4 times came against the Warriors. Now that particular year, Ralph, Chris Paul hamstring injury in Game 7, right? James Harden is a league MVP. I think they won like 65 games. We're number one in the Western Conference. So I think that was one of those weird series where it's like technically they would be the favorite, but they had KD and everyone was picking KD and the Warriors, right? So they proved they could be beaten. But I think really the issue is like you to before I swing it back to you is his offenses under Mike D'Antoni were heliocentric.
Right.
So now you're asking him to be the primary playmaker, the scorer option, right? And you have others around him that were underperforming, not hitting shots. He has to do so much. So what do? You bring in Westbrook. You're putting so much onus on your guard play, right? And then they lost to the Lakers, right? Because LeBron knew that. So I think, in fairness to James Harden, he made a great point about his quote on the podium after Game 1. You guys say, "Oh, I don't score enough." Then I score. Oh, then I don't play make it. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I think as I've matured as a fan and analyzing as a game as well, I think that some of the narrative James Harden is a little bit misguided. I don't think he's a playoff choker. I think that he's underperformed in certain aspects, and I think he's slowly chipping away at the narrative. In just my opinion.
I agree with you to a fault, bro. I do think that there is a certain narrative. I think that to some degree, there's some narratives that it's like the saying stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason.
Mm,
And it's like narratives are narratives for a reason. Like there's not it's not like they're just pulling this out of nowhere. So I do think that when you go and you look at his moments where what was that 20
Did a couple 2012 OKC.
what was that 2013 or 2014 against the Spurs
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
with
Hmm.
no Tony Parker, no Tim Duncan, and you still lose to Manu Ginobili.
Yeah, yeah.
Then you have
Shout out to Nani.
2018, uh, 2018, where they missed
Mhm.
that amount of shots, that amount of threes, being up 3-2, had 2 games to beat. The Warriors were up by double digits
Yeah,
in both of those games. Then even
I was about to say last year. It's kind of
last year he looked terrible.
yeah.
So I think that his play this year being able to play off of Joel Embiid. I do think last year was a little bit unfair because
The injury.
injuries. You got traded mid-season, so it's like when you get traded mid-season, you're really learning to play with someone on the fly. And when you play basketball at a high level, he has a. I'm sure, although people never really think of him when they think of IQ, but his ability to play make and be able to get a bucket, you got to have some type of IQ at that point. So it's like it's unfair to put that on him to never really think about him when it comes to IQ. But his point totals and assist totals is crazy. So I think his ability to learn to play with Joel, and I think PJ Tucker is really paying dividends with him as well as far as a leadership role. Going to Joel, and it's like, what are you doing? Go dominate. And so being able to play off of him, where now instead of being the number one scoring option, you're the second scoring option, and you can who has the talent to be a number one scoring option, while also having a Tyrese Maxey, who's a bucket getter. I think that all of that is a culmination of what we're seeing right here with this James Harden, and I'm enjoying it, man. I never like to see people get bashed because as much as we sit here, we say that style was not conducive to winning. We enjoy watching it. We like the 60 point totals, 12 assists, 8 rebounds.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to see it, man, and I'm curious to see what happens in the rest of these playoffs.
Yeah.
And so next up, we got Las Vegas Aces.
Okay.
Shout out to the ladies. And the New York Liberty with their big three are the 1 and 2 in the WNBA power rankings. Season starts toward the end of the month, but they are in training camp, and I'm getting excited, bro.
Same.
So, do you agree with 1 and 2 as far as the WNBA power rankings?
So I definitely agree with number one. Because of defending champions, you are the defending champions until someone knocks you off. But like we always say, each season brings new challenges, right? New challenges, new goals, new whatever hurts, right? To overcome. I think that we look at the Aces, them having some issues with the player, but then be able to replace that player with a Candace Parker, a future Hall of Famer, a former league MVP, a defensive player of the year, someone with the championship pedigree and continue to add and grow, someone who's been a teammate, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, with Becky Hammond as well. So I think when you add that integral piece and can be a player coach, I think that's huge. So I don't expect any slippage for the Aces. So shout out to the Vegas Aces, and I believe that they've earned their rightful number one early power ranking. Right, number two, I thought that potentially you could go either way depending on what angle you decide to take. I think that we know the talent of adding a Breanna Stewart and having um, a Sabrina on the same team. Right, that's insane. Right.
Right.
However, with the Liberty, however, here's my thing. They did lose in the first round, right, last year. And so just because you also add pieces and like, well, is it kind of contradictory because you just said Candace Parker, yeah, but they won the chip, right?
Right.
Just because you add pieces, there is a level of what do we always say, chemistry. You know, I'm not going to compare it to the NBA or whatever. I'm just going to look at WNBA or any sport in general. If you add new players, you have to have a rapport, time to gel, give them some time, and then see where they're at. But then came to the realization how many teams are in there? There's 12 teams,
Right.
you know? So, you know where I'm going? I'm like, once you realize that, it's like, well, are the other 10 teams better than them? Probably not. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to put them number two. Because at some point in time, they're going to probably smoke out these other teams. No disrespect. That does not mean that they don't have good talent. They actually, some of these teams have really good guard play, by the way.
Right.
But I feel like when I look at the WNBA, and then I'm going to slide it your way, some of these teams, they're really going over some major overhaul roster changes, and some of them were better. I mean, you have like the teams like the Dallas Stars and different things of that nature. But I think this is the era, like we talked about in shows past, of the super teams. I think that's what they're trying to usher in. It will also usher in some viewership. So I think that 1 and 2 respectively, yeah, I don't have any problem with it, Ralph.
Me either, too, bro. Like I definitely, I don't see a problem with it at all. I think that definitely, but my bias is going to show. But this is where I say my educated bias
Okay,
is
I like
is
that.
going to come into play. But I do think that after you could possibly go Mystics with the healthy
Mhm.
Elena Deladon.
Mhm.
The last time we seen her healthy, she was a problem. She was a whole load. Kept us from winning a finals and that opportunity as well.
Mm.
Brianna Stewart is another person when she was with the Seattle Storm, kept us from winning a title. So her
Mhm.
going over to New York where we could possibly meet them in the finals would be amazing. And so I think that also something to look at here, Saturday, May 13th at 2 o'clock,
Mm.
the Las Vegas Aces play the New York Liberty. It's a preseason game,
Ooh.
but they do play. So I'm curious to see how much playing time people
Mhm.
get.
Yeah.
Um, it's a Canada game,
Okay.
so I don't think it's here in Las Vegas
Oh,
because I'm
okay.
off that night and I definitely would have went.
Yeah, yeah,
But I do think that is going to be an early test to
yeah.
see what happens and as far as the chemistry of the team,
Mhm.
how the type of looks you're going to get. I do think that those are the cream of the crop. Now, I do think that the Connecticut Sun, a team that got to the finals last year, is nobody to sleep on. I do think that, like I said, the Mystic is another team to look at. To look at, we'll see if the Sparks are able to get back into it with the addition of Derica. Shout out to her.
Yeah.
But I agree. I would agree with the power rankings as a whole. And
Okay.
just earlier today, we got the final listings of our postseason awards, and we got a little bit of extra time, so I can go into depth
Okay.
with it. So I'm gonna start from the bottom. Now we're here because you know how I get down. So NBA third team, we got two Sacramento Kings
Mhm.
getting that third team look. I not to get a little bit ahead of myself, but I definitely don't agree with the placement of some of these particular players.
Okay.
And I'm gonna need the NBA app to stop playing with my emotions and get out my way with all these ads.
Yeah, I
But
feel you when you're trying to get
but we
stuff.
got De'Aaron Fox,
Mhm.
LeBron James. I got Sabonis, Julius Randle, aka Kirk Cousins, and Dame Dollar getting that fifth spot with the third team.
Okay, so that's a third
Then,
team.
then we slide on over to the second team. We got Donovan Mitchell,
Mhm.
the Joker,
Mhm.
Steph, Jimmy
Mhm.
Butler,
Mhm.
Jalen Brown on the second team.
Mhm.
Then on the first team, we got Giannis, Luca, Joel Embiid, Shea Gilgis Alexander, and rounding out the first team All NBA honors, Jason Tatum.
Okay.
Now, not only just this one, and I guess we can start here. Do you agree with the placement of these players? And this, do you feel like someone was snubbed?
I feel like a couple players were snubbed. First of all, I'm actually going to throw a name out there. Not just because he's one of my favorite players, but I actually believe that Kyrie Irving had a valid case for third team. If you're gonna put him on the team, because if you remember, Ralph, he was like before De'Aaron Fox, right? Before De'Aaron Fox, Kyrie Irving was like number one in the NBA in like fourth quarter scoring at one point. Clutch. Also, Kyrie Irving was led all position, if I'm not mistaken, in the Eastern Conference as the number one vote getter in the NBA All Star voting, right? After he had been cast away by the media and all that other kind of stuff, and he was able to focus on basketball and was able to perform. I understand that he got traded, but in games without Luca, they had a winning record. I believe they were like what 4-0. So Kyrie Irving was closing. So to me, he was actually the best closer. I know that De'Aaron Fox wound up winning the Clutch Award, but with all respect, I just had Kyrie Irving as that guy, or at least in the first half of the season, he was that guy. And so I thought he did enough job to get third team, maybe not first team, like not first team. But if you're the number one vote getter in All Star, I'm like, are you not even considered? Because you have guys like Dame and vice versa. I'm no disrespect to Dame. Then I'm also looking at a Jalen Brunson as well. So I'm like, where is Jalen Brunson? You know, you have Julius Randle. So just Randle. What about Jalen Brunson, his running mate? So those are some guys that I was looking at. And then the last one I was looking at potentially, I was looking at a Tyrese Halliburton. You know, what are we doing here? You know, what's going on, man, as they would say. So those are some three names that I looked at. And then when I was go up the list, you know, first team, okay. At first I was like, you got Jokic is second team, but Embiid is the MVP. Embiid is the
Right.
MVP. I don't know how Steph got second team.
Because I probably would have flipped my table over if Jokic would have got first team and Joel would have got second team.
Right. You know what I'm saying?
And I definitely no shade to Steph because he's balling in the playoffs.
Yeah.
The regular season award. Mm-hmm. I feel like De'Aaron Fox is too low.
Yeah, De'Aaron Fox should have been. If you're going to put anyone, he should have actually been there or higher.
Right.
Okay.
Because his team was third in the West.
Right. All season, pretty much.
Fourth quarter scoring, clutch. He wins the clutch award, gets his team to a third spot, all-star season, and then Steph gets his team to 6, and he's above De'Aaron Fox. Actually, I don't agree with it.
I got a question for you. Here's a good question for you. I just want to see in your personal opinion, because I know you like Shea. Would you put Fox over Shea, or do you think? Okay, do you think it's close at any chance or no? Based off what you just said, because I like Shea.
Not because you got to look at that team that he played on.
Right, he doesn't have as much.
He ain't got as much help. He don't have another all-star on his team.
Right, or he has talent, just not help. Really,
yeah, he has talent around him, but he ain't got no other all-star.
Okay,
or Hall of Famers either, to put it at that. And so he's far above and beyond what his individual talent, offensively, defensively, buckets, rebounding, assist, playmaking, clutch. I just think that he deserved his spot.
Fair enough.
And I'm happy to see him get his spot. Now I do think that I think the real conversation that needs to be had is we gotta get rid of putting players, giving players certain teams because of the position they play. I think that when you start looking at it, I think you got to put the best 15 players on these slots and not based on position.
Okay.
Because when you start to really look at it, and it's like...
Because someone's going to get left out if it's just by position.
Facts. And so I wish I really could compare people right now, but my internet is kind of tweaking. So I'm not able, but it's like when you look at the teams, you look at, so you got Tatum who plays the 4, Giannis who plays the 4. Tatum can be a 3. Luka is a point or a 2 guard. Shea is a point guard. And then you got Joel, who's obviously the center. Then the next one, there's a center, a power forward, and 3 guards. And so I think that when you start throwing certain people in certain spots based on, all right, we need 3 power forwards, we need 3 centers, 3 small forwards, and it's like I think you start edging people out where that's not fair, and I don't think that's the thing there. I don't think that's right, because I think at some point you start these all NBA teams matter to people,
right?
And so, shout out to the homegirl Tasha.
Yeah, I was gonna say shout out. Thank you
I,
for you.
I appreciate you for watching, girl. Miss you. And so I think that when we start to have these conversations, I think that these are things that got to get talked about.
Mhm.
And so to keep the conversation moving, something I do agree with, and we talked about him before, and I stood up for him because I don't think the way that he's being treated is
Mhm.
fair. Nah, shout out
Oh,
to that boy, Dylan Brooks.
okay.
They say he's a scrub. They
Mhm.
say, oh, he's not that good of a defender,
Mhm.
but he made an all defensive team.
Yep, second all
It
defense.
was
Not
second.
third,
It
second.
was second. But
Yeah.
hey, it's still an
No,
all
that's good.
defensive team.
Right.
And so shout out to that boy, Dylan Brooks.
Mhm. You got the list in front of you right now because I was about to pull up because I know Drew made it. It just goes to show you who Jimmy Butler cooked this year. But
And so on the first team, and
okay,
shout out to that boy Caruso too.
wait, he was first team, right?
First
Yep,
team,
I
first team
see.
on defense. We got Drew
See.
Holiday, first team.
Mm, mm,
Brooke Lopez, probably his best season.
right.
And just think about them years with the Brooklyn Nets. He was a way different player.
Right. He was just a rebounder back then.
He's
Well,
reinvent,
scorer.
he's reinvented his game.
Yeah,
Evan
yeah.
Mobley and Jared Jackson to round out the first team. On the second team, we got Bam Adebayo, your boy.
My boy.
Draymond. Good
Yeah.
old Draymond.
Oh man, that's not my boy at all, man. He's
Draymond
cool.
will look at you. He'll make you miss just by looking at you.
Right.
We got the forehead himself, Derek White,
The forehead right
OG Anunoby,
there. Oh,
and
gee.
my boy Dylan Brooks, second team all defense, baby.
My man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we love to see it. We love to see it. Do you think there's anybody that got snubbed?
Um, let's see. Let me think. I'm trying to think about this. When I looked at the NBA this year, because see, a lot of times they do these things by let me look at your defensive rating and all that other kind of stuff. And I'm like, man, defensive rating said Rondo was a better defender than Kobe. So I'm like, I don't believe that. And what are we doing here, man? You know what I'm saying? Or Bird was better than like Alonzo Mourning. But I actually looked at the list and it was solid because I saw Brooke Lopez and see what I like you mentioned, just don't go by position. But you got Evan Mobley, you got the young dude Evan Mobley, and we saw his impact on the defensive side of the ball this season. You have Brooke Lopez, who was second in Defensive Player of the Year voting, and he was the anchor of the Milwaukee Bucks defense. It has been since he's gotten over there. Obviously, we talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo and his help defense, but it was Brooke Lopez in the absence of him last year that really caused some things, and Jaren Jackson Jr. led the NBA in blocks this year. Drew Holiday, I like that, and Caruso, I'm just happy that Caruso got, you know, his just due. So I really didn't have any problem when I look at the list. We know what Derek White does. We know what Draymond's always going to probably make it. And so yeah, I really didn't have any issues with the
I would have
defenses.
liked to see a Joel
You know, yeah, Joel.
get
Yeah,
in it.
Joel can finally
He was
make it.
top 10 in defense. I mean, top 10
Mhm.
in rebounding. He was top 10
Yeah,
in blocks.
defensive rebounds. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so I think that, and when you look at the Sixers as a defensive unit, they're
Hmm.
a top 10 defense. I think you kind of got to give him some credit,
Yeah.
although you can't give him everything. So, like, I get it. But I would have liked to see him get that spot because I think he really does deserve it.
No love for D Book, man. They said he's the next Kobe. No, let me stop. No,
Boy, stop. Boy, better stop.
no disrespect to D Book, man. We still love you, man. But
And next up, like Chance the Rapper would say, let's do that hockey.
okay.
And
Blackhawks.
so Chicago Blackhawks, they trade
Mhm.
away Patrick Kane. They bench Taves. They give away. There's another player I'm trying to think of that was a major contributor to that team. I'm mid-season thinking, what are we doing? Thinking about burning my Blackhawks jerseys. And then I get an alert on my phone a couple days ago. Chicago Blackhawks win the lottery and the Bedard sweepstakes. So I'm like, who's this Bedard kid?
Mhm.
He's 17 from Canada.
Man.
looking like the next coming of Gretzky.
Oh,
So I go and I type his name in the YouTube search, and I'm looking up plays. I'm looking at Connor McDavid talking about how quick his release is. Is a player from Anaheim Ducks
mm-hmm.
talking about his maturity, but he's only 17. And
Mm-hmm.
then I go and I look at the numbers. In 57 games, he had 71 actual goals and 72 assists. To put that into perspective, Connor McDavid was the leading scorer for the NHL. Now, mind you, this is the junior league in Canada, so it's not the same talent level. But we always talk about this when it comes to evaluating talent. You got to dominate.
Correct.
Regardless of who it is that's in front of you, you got to dominate. So Connor McDavid has 64 goals and 89 assists with 25 more games.
Mm.
So to put that in perspective, just think about he played 25 less games and had just about the same amount of output, maybe 10 goals less
Mm.
at 17 years old. So this leads me to ask, because we're about to talk about it too, coming up soon with Victor Wembanyama.
All right.
But does taking work?
All right. So tanking works until it doesn't work. Oh, I think so like what I did there, right? So I think with tanking, it depends on the sport, Ralph. You know what I'm saying? Like look at the NBA and look at what Adam Silver's doing. You know, the penalized tanking. You just can't tank. You're not gonna, and you're automatically gonna get the one or two overall pick, right? So he's put regulations and ways in place where you just can't do that. So I think that in the NHL, you know, if they change rules, you know, sure, it may not be as effective, but overall, what it does is it gives you a chance, right? It gives you a chance because you just said that you were on wits end. You're about to go to your top of your roof, you know what I'm saying, and with a
Exactly.
beer bottle or a bottle of Henny and just cry, you know, listening to the
Yeah,
music, you know, like you know,
yeah.
uh,
I'm gonna put my R&B jams on and just cry
right,
my
right,
sorrows away, man.
and yeah, yeah, yeah. But then after you heard the news, because you guys tanked, you got a 17-year-old prodigy, a 17-year-old prodigy, man. Like when you
Yeah,
talk about the second coming of Gretzky, talking about someone compared to Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky's amazing, bro. You know what I'm
right.
saying? Like maybe he'll hit over 100 goals in the season. You know what I'm saying? He's on that Ovechkin type ish. So
Right.
I think in this respect, and based off of the league that we're talking about, I think it's definitely a possibility. You know, I'll say that you know it can heighten your chances of something, but playing devil's advocate or the inverse of that would be yeah, you can tank, but you got to make the right pick. And sometimes I know we're talking about usually the best prospects and all that kind of stuff. We've seen GMs do stupid stuff with the number one overall pick.
True.
It happens.
True.
So yeah. But
True.
I know you're happy, so I'm gonna say tanking. Yeah.
We're excited. We're happy over here.
Yeah.
Life is good over here.
Hey, life is good. Shout out to the festival and all that, man. But all right.
Right. Right. Life is definitely beautiful. And
Mhm.
so
Life is
next
beautiful
up,
everywhere.
we got Haley Van Lith and
Mhm.
Anissa Morrow from
Mhm.
DePaul. Haley Van Lith transferring from Louisville. Both of them transferring to the defending champ.
Yeah.
Is this cheating, bro? Are they
Absolutely.
cheating, bro? They cheating over there, bro.
No, it's absolutely not. Yeah, it increases the balance of power in their favor, right? You know, but in the not WNBA, excuse me, in women's college basketball, right? There was a little bit of parity. I felt like this year because we did see South Carolina get knocked off. We saw Iowa make it all the way, right? Maryland is always a good team, right? And they almost beat upset South Carolina. But when we look at LSU, when you talk about the transfer portal, the athletes they have the ability and they the freedom, the autonomy to choose the school that they feel like will best suit them, you know, for their interests. So I don't believe that it's cheating, right? They just chose a championship caliber coach and a championship program now, right? Coached by Kim Mulkey. So shout out to her. I just want to say this. This is scary though. This is very scary in terms of the talent that they have. You
Yeah.
wind up getting a nation leading rebounder. Memorial, you wind up having Haley Van Lith, who's tough, right? And she can talk some smack now too. She can
Mm-hmm.
talk some smack now. So she got game. She
A
knows how
whole
to
lot of
score.
this.
Right, a whole lot of that. So now, right now, you have the inside outside attack, and you add in Angel Reese and her rebounding and her defense that she's going to provide. Right. So I think what now you have Flau'jae as well, and Angel Reese and Flau'jae said they don't have any when they're on the Breakfast Club, they don't have any in rush to go to the WNBA. You know, they're the NIL deals and stuff like that, making their money. So I think that it's not cheating. They're going to continue to be a powerhouse. And now I want to see, what do teams like a UConn, who is getting back a Paige Buchers, what do teams like a South Carolina, who many like me and you both, we believe that they were going to win back to back, right? And so now they're coming off a loss, losing to Leah Boston as well, right? Number one overall pick. Shout out to Leah Boston. So what does Dawn Staley do with her program? So I'm gonna swing it back to you, but I don't believe it's cheating. I think it actually makes next season far more intriguing.
Hey, I'm rooting for them, bro, because they're my girls.
Baltimore.
I have I have constantly said how showed my affinity and my love for LSU and them Lady Tigers. Shout out to my cousin TT baby. We love you, baby. We miss you. But this cheating, bro.
Yeah.
There's no other way around it, bro. They cheating out there, bro. They is cheating.
Collusion.
Look at these numbers. They're getting the 1 and 2
Yep.
people in the transfer portal.
Mm-hmm.
Haley Van Lith is coming off of a 20 point, 5 rebounds, 3 assists season.
Mm-hmm.
Anissa is coming out of Chicago. Shout out to DePaul and Chi-Town, baby. 2-time Big East, 2-time AP All-American,
Mm-hmm.
Big East Rookie of the Year, Big East All-Freshman team, coming off of 26 points, 12 rebounds.
Mm-hmm.
And not only did they get that, but they got the number 2 player in the country
Mm-hmm.
coming in. They cheating, bro. But I'm
I
here
just
for
want to
it.
see someone beat them. I want to see if someone can beat them. I just want to
Right.
see if they
True.
can beat them. Excuse me.
True.
I
It
don't
is one
want
of
to
those things that, though, like all jokes aside, I'm looking forward to the season, man. I think that UConn and what they've been able to do over the years, I'm curious to see if they're able to get to come back. Caitlin Clark coming off of a loss, is she going to be able to bounce back?
I think she
With that team, I'm not sure. I have to really look into it. I really got to get the opportunity to actually look to see who could possibly be someone that could beat them. But at the end of the day, the game's still got to be played. Like you always say, games and championships are not won on Excel sheets.
Yeah.
So it might look good on paper,
Chemistry.
but are they willing to sacrifice their own stats for the greater good of winning championships?
Right.
And that's the part that we got to see. We thought it was going to be over when Shaq, Karl Malone, Kobe, and Gary Payton came together, and they still lost.
Don't remind
So
me. Don't
at the end of the day, the game still got to be played. So shout out to the LSU Lady Tigers. And so last but not least, we got our quick hitters, bro. Sha'Carri Richardson comes out and says, I am not back. I'm better.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I wish we had more time to speak on this one, but I'm just want to say I'm very, very happy with Sha'Carri Richardson. I believe what she said. I actually got a chance to watch her post game, post meet interview, however you want to call it, and she said, "I'm happy. I found her. Happy. I found peace, and that no one's going to take that away from her anymore, and that she's blessed." She said, blessings everybody. Like, she's just in a happy place. She's grown. Over like the last 2 years, right? She's dealt with a lot of different things, having performed poorly at the U.S. Championships, where she failed to qualify for the 100 and 200 meter finals. Then prior to that, she was banned for testing positive for marijuana after winning the U.S. 100 meter contest at the Olympic trial. So she really went through a lot of trials and tribulations, and she had a lot of people coming at her. And there's a level of maturation as well. But yeah, she's great. And in terms of her performance, she ran a 10.76, guys, versus a tough field, which included Sharika Jackson, who won silver at the Worlds last year. So she beat two medalists in an international setting, and she was able to kind of silence some of that. She performs poorly in international play. So just want to say I have nothing left to say. She's just in a very great place, positive place, focused. Her running looks focused, man. Like shout out to Sha'Carri Richardson, man.
Most definitely, most definitely. Next up, it's time to give this man, Aljamain Sterling, his credit, bro. I think
Yeah.
that he had a deciding victory over Cejudo, but
Mm-hmm.
we gonna look up his fights.
Okay.
And his last couple fights, he's coming off of some big victories. He's talked about fighting Sean O'Malley, but I think that when it came down to the conversation of who he's fought and what has happened, I think
Mm-hmm.
when we start looking at, oh, he got a fake belt because it was a disqualification. Well, he beat T.J. Dillashaw, who's a legend in the sport. He beat Cejudo, who's a two division champ. I think he came back and and, and showed that he's here. Now I'm gonna halt the talks of like, oh, he's a legend and in the division.
Mm-hmm.
I think like within this generation, we're too quick to start giving people legendary status.
Mm.
But I think what he's been able to do, how he controlled that fight against Cejudo, I think how he beat T.J. Dillashaw, and then I'm trying to see. Oh, after winning the belt with the illegal knee, he came back and beat Peter Yan in a split decision.
Yeah.
So I think that he showed he's coming off of three. Actually, my man ain't lost. He hasn't lost a fight since
Eight.
2017.
What, eight
So
win streaks, I think, or eight,
right,
eight fights, something like that.
and so
Yeah.
I think it's time to give him his credit, bro. I'm happy to see it. I actually got an opportunity to meet him, had a chance to encounter with him in the Miracle Mile shops.
Oh, cool.
Uh, and I've never been the type to be like, oh, let me get a picture. But it was just a simple like, hey, what's up, bro? We was at the bar together, shook hands, not
Yeah.
super cool, chill dude. And this was right after he won that belt,
Wow. That's a cool experience.
right? And then next up, we've been waiting for it.
Mhm.
It's finally here. Brownie has decided he will go to USC.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts?
I like it. I like it. So first and foremost, Bronny James, he's projected as a lottery pick by ESPN for the 2024 NBA draft. I think he's 26th ranked in the nation. However, that's ESPN. He's actually ranked differently across different sports outlets as well. I think ESPN, obviously, with LeBron James, with all due respect, no shot at Bronny, but they're going. I think they're juicing some of the his projections up a little bit, but that does not mean that he cannot be. Pretty much with him, we're looking at somebody who this draft class coming up in 2024 is not projected to be that really high, right? So it's a chance. However, when we're looking strictly at his basketball game in USC, I like his basketball game. He's the best defender in his class. He's a solid playmaker, right? He can shoot basketball, and he's progressed as a basketball player each and every single year. We talked about this when we had a segment on Bronny before, and he has a good shot IQ. He doesn't take bad shots, and he has a high basketball IQ, which you can kind of expect coming from his father. I think that he's handled the spotlight very well, knowing who LeBron James is. Also, going to USC allows him to be close to his dad and his family, who are in LA because LeBron plays for the Lakers. And people are like, well, what about minutes? He's not going to get minutes. He goes to USC. Wow, wow, wow. Well, you have to think about it. You have Isaiah Collier, right? Isaiah Collier is a pure point guard, great, exceptional passer, right? He's the second ranked in the nation and the number one point guard, right? So you have him and you have Boogie Ellis. So if you have a guy who's a great teammate, who's going to make the right play and who can shoot, his best attribute is his long range shooting. you can actually play him at times aside Isaiah Collar, and he's going to be able to set up. He doesn't have to be that first or second option. So I believe that there was some type of formal agreement there, obviously prior to him being able to commit, like all players, not just Bronny, like all players have prior to committing. And I think it's a good look, Ralph, when you look at it. And I just want to say this: he's going to get hate. There's going to be people who are hate on him and all that kind of stuff. And he's been able to deal with it. So I really like this. Don't root for him to fail, just because, his father's LeBron and all that kind of stuff. No,
Yeah.
this is somebody who put in the time, energy, effort, and has consistently gotten better. So I actually like the fit at USC more so than I thought that I would have.
I like the fit, man. I think that everything that you expounded on, when you get the opportunity to play off ball,
mm-hmm.
where he can develop his game as an off ball scorer, something that we never really seen LeBron do until recently. So he gets to develop his game in his way, where we can stop comparing him to a LeBron.
Exactly.
And so, plus, I think the team itself is going to be good. They immediately got, right after the signing of Bronny, they got Dennis Rodman Jr.
Yeah.
DJ Rodman coming from Washington State, who I didn't know that he was in the league, or in college, but after looking up his numbers, and my phone literally just died, so I'm not able to actually look them up. But he was averaging double figures in points and was a great and it was a decent rebounder too at 6'6". Okay. Pretty much has the size and athleticism that his dad had. He's just way lighter skinned. And so I think that with those two players plus two that you've already mentioned, I think that they're going to have a good team. I'm curious to see the growth with that team and see what happens going forward. And then next up, see if I can able to get some juice to get squeeze the last little topic out of here. But we got to talk about Canelo. No, let's talk. You know what? Let's talk about veteran leadership.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay.
I think this is really important because on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is veteran leadership to you? On a team and within an organization. And I think about it this way. To me, I think it's extremely important because let's just say, all right, so Allen Iverson played for the Memphis Grizzlies. He had certain things that happened to him throughout his career that held him back, while also later in his career cut his career short.
Yeah.
Now, also, there wasn't a bigger star in the NBA than Allen Iverson. So who else can tell Ja what it's like to be a star, what it's like to get in trouble, and how to bounce back from that, and how to be able to relate to him? Because he has a certain look. Everybody's wearing sleeves, tattoos, and braids because of Allen Iverson. So I think when you're able to have someone come back to that type of organization and be able to guide those young players, and we got to cut it short, I think that's super important. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree with every single thing you say. Look at and not just those guys, but the Anthony Tollivers of the world when they were playing, the PJ Tuckers and what he's doing to that. So I think the mentorship aspect of the young players, and then also the championship aspect of the team as a whole. So I think that it's a hugely important. And I give it a scale of 1 to 10. You said I give it a 10.
All right. And make sure you go follow all of our socials. We got them down there at the bottom of the ticker. But on TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, type in at KYNGRALPH, add an underscore for Twitter. On Instagram at J.U.K. Sports Show, as well as on Facebook, the He Say, She Say, all one word channel, J.U.K. Media for YouTube, and for unbiased breakdown and analysis, go on that Instagram, go on that search bar, type in at @the.house of hoops. And thank you all for watching. We out of here, man. Peace out. Ooh, hold up. Good plan.